Hey, Mr. Atheist. You're live with Eric and EJ. How you doing?
So good. How are the both of you?
Well, I mentioned that I have finals coming up, so, you know, that's how my life is going.
Yeah.
I can feel the aggression radiating off of EJ right now.
Yeah, I'm extra tense because I'm just like, I got all the final stress, and so I'm just like, I'm going to bite somebody's head off. No, I'm trying to be nice about it.
So
I real quick, before I jump into mine, I want to bring up the very end of your first call. The guy ended with, I know it's difficult for you. And I wanted to point out what I see as a large amount of irony, since the way that conversation started was how hard it is for him to remember and use pronouns. So I don't know. Am I the only one here who thinks that's just a bit nuts?
It was fun. Lots of hypocrisy in these calls so far. Apart from Colonel Phil, he's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah, Colonel Phil's the man.
So what do you want to talk about?
Okay, so there is this individual who I am very sad to see has seduced much of the atheist community. So I wanted to talk to you about him and also one of his recent ideas. So recently, Matt Dillahunty debated Jordan Peterson.
Oh!
I knew the second he said somebody seduced
Canadian Kermit the Frog? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
If you,
By the way,
did you watch the debate?
I did.
It's the substrate that is behind everything, and you really need to understand our social, cultural.
I mean, really, am I the only one who saw it?
I did.
Oh my gosh, watch it again. It's
I don't
Kermit.
have time, dude.
Well, you got after next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
After my finals are done, I'll watch it.
Last night I was in a Skype call with Brilliant Doubt, and I decided to try doing my impression of him. I'm not going to do it now, but I will tell you it's only going to take me a week or two to get it down, and then you're not going to be able to stop hearing me do Jordan Peterson impression. So in the debate, Jordan Peterson once again makes the no true atheist. And I want to make sure that I feel like this stuff, the atheists who have been seduced by him haven't heard his arguments on actual theism and atheism. And if they would watch those things, you would realize the same bullcrap vocabulary that is completely self-defined for him is what he uses to argue things. And that's that vocabulary, the way he dialogues is what seduces people. Mm-hmm. And yet, it's bullcrap when it's something relevant to you. So he made the no true atheist argument. Mm-hmm. And he basically said that the only way to have morals is either to believe in God or act like you believe in God, whether or not you say you do or not. So I want to first talk about that and then talk about in general I think you've already given your opinions on Jordan Peterson, but
yeah, the atheists who like Jordan Peterson are just transphobes who like him because he agrees with them.
There are plenty of people like that, and there are plenty of people who just think that he's intellectual because he sounds, he uses a lot of big words, but when
anybody who knows the actual theories he's using knows that he's full of bullshit. But
yeah,
that's just me.
Yeah, it takes some time to kind of parse apart if you're not used to it, but I'd be happy to parse one or two of them apart before we move on. So which one did you want to talk about?
The no true atheist argument, which, yeah, I haven't done an episode yet on. I'm looking to soon, but it is something that it feels like it's getting more popular right now. It used to be, why do you hate God? Now it's, well, you're not really an atheist. It seems to be emerging more and more. So
what a silly deflection!
I mean, yeah, my response is usually, well, then you're not really a Christian because obviously Islam is correct, or you're not really a Hindu because Christianity is right. Like, it doesn't mean anything.
And over here at the ACA, when somebody calls in and says that they're a Christian or a Hindu or Muslim or whatever, we just say, okay. I mean, I'm not going to dictate to you what you think that your religion is. I'm going to take your word for it, and I'm going to meet you where you're at instead of building up these straw men, which is what I saw during the debate. It was creating this is atheism, this is what atheists think, therefore you're not it. And I cannot imagine a productive conversation when all you're doing is trying to invalidate other people instead of listening to what they have to say and being and challenging that and talking about actual issues instead of saying, oh, you're not really this or that. I mean, how nice would it be if every Christian that called in were just like, no, you're not really Christian.
Yeah,
like,
and I mean, you know, it really comes back to what we talked about towards the beginning, is like, you can't know somebody's own personal experience of the way that they view the world and the way that they feel about the things that they feel. And so you cannot know if that person legitimately believes in the thing that they say that they believe in. All we can do is either say, yes, I believe that you believe that, or say, no, I don't believe that you believe that. But at what point are you actually having a productive conversation if you do that? You know, if somebody tells you they believe something, you generally kind of have to take it at face value unless it becomes clear that they're just faking it, which most of the time people aren't.
Right.
Like, people rarely are lying about their beliefs.
And for the purposes of this show, even if they're lying about it, if they're presenting a good discussion and things can be learned from it, I still don't care.
Yeah, who cares?
Like,
Yeah. I think it's important to expose especially with this scenario where you have a bunch of people who love this guy because he seems so intellectual and it's all based on stats. And then you go, well, look at how he approaches this. He pretends he has stats. He pretends he has information. He quoted Crime and Punishment during this argument. But in reality, he's going with, I often refer to him as a common sense fraud. He takes those things that feel like common sense, adds a big vocabulary to them to seduce people to it. And I think it's important to expose and still talk about those things, because at some point, as you go down their rabbit hole, it inevitably will show whether or not their opinion is actually based on facts, or when and how intensely feelings came in. And so that's why I specifically wanted to bring up this guy, that I hope any of your viewers who are seduced by him will take a second look.
I don't know, I'm seeing people in the chat being like, oh, EJ was insulting a whole fan base, but wants people to respect their identity. So like, people will feel the way that they want to feel.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, what's interesting to me about the no true atheist argument is a lot of times it's used as like, oh, well, you grew up a Christian, but now you're an atheist, so like, clearly you just still believe in God and just want to sin. But that doesn't take into account that there are people that were never Christian to begin with, or never religious to begin with. I grew up secular. You know, I never believed in God. I have never believed in God. I never even considered it to be a possibility. And so, like, the likelihood of me believing in God is just as likely as me believing in Thor's existence, or believing in, I don't know, the pagan gods, or believing in, you know, Hindu gods. Like, it is equally as likely, which is to say zero. And so the argument that is often used is, oh, well, you used to be religious, so clearly you just abandoned your religion so that you could sin, or so that you could, you know, do whatever. They use a bunch of different justifications, and it just doesn't hold up, because there are people that were never religious to begin with.
yeah.
And I have two thoughts on that specific thing. The first one is, just to give you an example, when you do come up religious, I came up Mormon, and I still to this day hear the argument from family, from people who intimately know me, know how much I've changed, that deep down I still know it's true, and that I'm rejecting it. And so my second point to that thing is, and Mormons will not believe this, because it is defiant of what they think is the nature of Mormonism. I didn't become a good person until I left Mormonism. And in fact, Mormonism was what was preventing me from becoming a good person. And that is so often the case with people of many religions. It's not just Mormonism. Mormonism, as Christopher Hitchens used to say, though I think he was quoting somebody else, without religion, you have good people doing good things, bad people doing bad things. With religion, you have good people doing bad things.
Something like that.
That is...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not, that wasn't a perfect quotation.
No, but
that is so much the experience of myself. Eric, I think we've talked about this before, that it's yours. And so this no true atheist, just fuck off. You know?
It's boring too. Like, it's not original. It doesn't add anything to the conversation. It's just like, well, clearly you aren't, therefore I'm right. Like, it doesn't do anything.
But it is it's
all presupposition.
Well, but to me, I think in a lot of discussions, it's a really good jumping off point to be able to have conversations about deeper issues. I'm happy to take the time if somebody really does think that, and then use that as a springboard to be able to talk about other things, you know, because you don't just apply this epistemology when it comes to religion. You apply your same toolbox for deciphering the world around you everywhere. And so if this is something that you're using to reliably get to truth, or thinking that you can reliably get to truth by claiming this kind of thing, maybe it's a good thing that they brought it up, because we can fix that. So.
Right, and you can take that to further conclusions with them and discuss those mechanisms they have where they are deciding which parts in the Bible are good and which are not, and showing them that they have an exterior mechanism that has, anyway, that I could go on for days about that. Yeah. You guys have a rest of a show to do.
We do, but we appreciate your call. And we're going to be having some announcements. If you do want to follow Talk Heathen, let me get a little bit of information up. You can call live during our show at 1-512-686-0279. You can email us, mail@talkheathen.com. You can also get a hold of me at Dirty Heathen. You can get a hold of me on, that's Twitter, Instagram, Eric the Heathen. You can also find me on Facebook, or our Facebook for Talk Heathen, which is Facebook at Talk Heathen. Jamie, who's not here, is at Jamie the Heathen for Instagram, and reason_evidence for Twitter. And if you want to get a hold of EJ,
at Abominable EJ on Twitter.
Thanks. Ooh, and Talk Heathen on Reddit. Okay. Yeah, definitely follow us, because we're going to be having some really cool stuff. Actually, I'm queuing up to do some self-promotion and some promotion of others in the next week. So stay tuned, and we're going to be showing you some really cool stuff. We're excited. Thank you so much for calling in.
Woo.
Take care, buddy.
Yep, see ya.
No true atheist.
Yeah.
You know how many atheists that I've come across that are just like, yeah, I totally get the God thing, but your aura is just so like, man, I can tell you're an old soul. It's like, how did you get through this and not like ditch this along the way? Why do you still think that there's spiritual? Yeah. I mean, I get it. Everybody wants to have superpowers.
People just really like to hold on to the supernatural, because it's part of, I mean, there's a reason that we created it as a human species, is we like to have ways to understand the unknown and the things that we can't quite comprehend yet.
And who doesn't want to have special powers?
Yeah, and so having kind of this wooey, spiritualist, even once you get rid of the whole God thing, it's like a comfort blanket almost.
It is.
Of like, oh, well, I don't have religion anymore, but at least I still have my spirituality. And I mean, I'm not going to fault people for that as long as it's not harmful. But you'd be better off living in the real world. Like, join us. It's great out here.
And I actually do fault them, and I do think it's harmful, and I do fight against it.
I meant more, I don't fault them as it's a coping mechanism. I see it as maybe like a stepping stone in their journey to finding the way out of all of that. But maybe I'm being optimistic here.
Well, I mean, really, I think that it is another epistemological piece, that we're not just atheists, right? There are tons of atheists out there that do believe in wooey spiritual stuff. The reason you don't have any people on this show that are like that is because we are also skeptics. If you want to see other motivations for us, we are also secular humanists.
Yeah.
And those are other labels that we apply to ourselves that are not just atheism. And so I do want to kind of put a pin in that's what you're getting with this show. You're getting atheist, skeptic, secular humanist. If you want something else, that's okay. I hope you find it. But if you do like what's going on here, hey, hit like and subscribe while you can. Hit that button, and let's get up.
And to be clear, if you're into woo and spiritualism, and you also believe in homeopathy and alternative medicine, fuck you.
Please, fuck that person. I really, honestly, I cannot stand the people who think that they're creating medicine and selling it to desperate people and taking advantage.
Alternative medicine that works is just called medicine.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Okay. So I do want to get to someone else.